Hello everyone, this is Guyan with Genome Studios, and I'm here for another O3DE intensive. Now, this one's a redo to go way quicker and way just more after the stuff. I will be linking the original video. It's got fragmented knowledge, but it's a bit long-winded. So this tutorial is just to get you set up with VS Code, which is an alternate code editor to Visual Studio Community 2022, and Ninja Builder, which is a different builder when you compile that I just personally prefer how it handles things. Ninja, when you make edits, it targets your edits to build basically first. So although it takes about the same amount of time to compile, if you hit errors, which I do hundreds and thousands of times, you'll find the error sooner, so that instead of compiling for 2 minutes out of 5 and then finding out you failed, you compile for 30 seconds out of 5 and find out you failed. It has also nice little reporting and stuff like that. So I'm going to just go quite quickly and start with the prerequisites. So obviously you want to have Visual Studio Code. Here's the website, VSCode. You can just search up VSCode download. There's Windows. There's other platforms. Of course, I'm going to show you how to do it in Windows. There's going to be similarities, but some of the nice little utilities that I have available will only work for Windows. So another thing you need is Ninja. You likely don't have it, so you can always just search up winget Ninja-build, and you'll get a website, one of the many. This is one that has the command. So all you do is you go CMD, and you can copy this, and then you can click Control Insert, or that's copy, Shift Insert, and it gives you the command. If you've never used winget, it's going to ask you to agree to the terms of service. Alternatively, I do have this already, so alternatively, you can also go winget search and go Ninja, and it'll do a nice little search for you. And you can see that what we're looking for is this Ninja-build.Ninja. That's the ID. And you can see here, this is why they're using it this way. So I didn't say it earlier, but I'm also going to be expecting that you have followed our building O3DE from source code tutorial that's just before this one, because that makes these tutorials shorter together by themselves. And then the last thing you'll want is my O3DE intensives resources. Has a bunch of really nice utilities and preset things, so I don't have to go moment by moment, setting by setting with you. All of this will of course be in the description of the video, and so all you need to do is click on this code and you can download zip. If you want, on-demand changes, you can always just clone the repository, but the way that it's set up is that you have to copy these things into your project. So even if you just fetch the new versions, you're going to have to basically manually patch the versions into your work. But I've been slowly finding cool ways to use VS Code and my own little utilities. And so then, it's pretty cool to keep track of and get the latest and the greatest. So finally, you've got the prerequisites, you've learned how to do the source code and things. Now we have our VS Code here. So one last set of prerequisites is if you go to View and you go to Extensions, you will want to get a few things. So you want CMake tools, and you can always just click Install beside it. Now this has, I'm not sure, you may also then want to get C++ and get the C++ extension pack. And I'm very sure, yeah, it comes with the C++ here. It comes with the C++ themes. Oh, and as we see here, CMake tools. So you don't even need to worry about CMake tools. And then one very, very important one that's helpful is GUID. And you can just get the first one. This really helps when you're working with C++, because if you copy and paste something and it happens to have a GUID, that will absolutely bork up all of your work if you don't make a new one. So before I get into those details, I also like to have the Explorer here open. And so now, what do we do? Well, the very first and foremost thing is, of course, have a project. Second most is have the editor source code available, as you will if you had followed the previous tutorial. And then the last one is to make a gems development folder. So in particular, this folder is just kind of where you want to develop all of your gems, and it becomes a very helpful utility to just have it all in one collective place, because when you're making a complex game with many gems, it's really annoying to have to pick each single one when you're working. So what does this all mean? Well, first we're going to open a folder, and you'll go all the way to your development folder where you've got your project. For me, I'm going to be doing GSplay demos, just because I have projects set up with everything else. GS Core, there we go. So here, GS Core demos is your project here. It should look something like this. I had a folder up here that didn't make any sense. And now we're going to add some other folders so that this becomes a really prominent work group, Workspace. So we're going to add folder to Workspace. You can also go in here and add folder to Workspace. And we're going to go to the gems development folder that I talked about. So now we have our project, our gems, and we're going to do one last go and do the source code. So that means you have your core demos, your play gems, and your editor source code. We can now save the workspace. So I go save workspace as, and we're in the core demos here, and I'll make a folder called VSCode, and I guess this is here already, but you can save the workspace right in there. And what you'll find is that you get a VSCode folder here, and it's got your code demos workspace. And you can double check that it's correct, because you'll see folders. There will be the path that means your project, and then the paths that mean your gems development folder and your editor source code. So let's start actually configuring your VS Code. So you'll want to, of course, get your intensives resources copy by downloading the zip or doing the repo, as I said earlier. And we can then begin to bring things over. So inside Setup VS Code, we have two folders, VS Code bat files and VS Code custom settings. And we'll go into the custom settings first and start from there. So first of all, we're going to start configuring your project specifically. So you can double click into there, and there should be 4 files. And what we want to do to start is copy the launch, the settings, and the tasks, and copy them into your .vs code. Then this last one here, I'll pull it up, has these extra commands. So if you look at your project and go to CMake presets.json, it should look like this, very minimal. So what you can do is at the very end of this, or at the very beginning of this little comma after include, copy it and go all the way down to the square bracket, leaving that last guy there, and then go right to the tip of include and paste. Between all of these things, you always need a comma, so that's what that one's there for. And this sets up some configuration presets and some build presets. I'm not going to get into details about that. You can always check out my much longer video about this. The link will be in the description if you want to know more about these things. But I'm going to try and get you right after it so that you don't have to fuss too much. Now we're going to go and we're going to pull up launch and settings and tasks all together. And we're going to pull up, oops, I keep pulling up the wrong one. We're going to go in and look at the, oh, I think this was it, the README here. And what it has is some preparation file things. And all it is that I've laced these particular commands throughout these template folders so that you can copy them, click Control Find and paste it in, and then force replace all. So the first one is project folder name. What this is describing is this folder right here. And so we'll call it GS Core Demos. And now we can kind of scrub. So it has no results here, but when we go into launch, there's 15 here. I'll tell you a little bit about this because we're in here. So when you're using these commands, they usually have a very simple command like Workspace folder by default. But Workspace folder assumes that the only folder in your workspace is the project, the thing that you're doing. But because of the way that we've formatted our workspace, we actually have 3 workspace folders. And using workspace folder, if it was like this, cannot discern what folder we're talking about. And that can cause a lot of trouble. So we instead put this colon and clarify that the one that we're actually talking about is our project folder. And this applies in this file directory name and some other ones that are laced around. Now this launch file might be a little intimidating, but actually the one that we'll be using 99.999% of the time is this one right here. All it is the build the editor for every time that we want to program something and test it. Moving on though, we have it cropping up here, another 3, so we can click replace all. And in tasks, there's another 4, so we can replace all. And then we want to go to the next one. So we have path to third-party gems. And I can copy this, and I can click find and paste. And then in your case, you'll go through your users, through O3DE third-party folder. This won't be correct for me. But again, we can step into the CMake's presets. Nope. Launch. Nope. Settings. There's one. So yeah, you're just saying in the configure settings, the third-party path is this one. Tasks. No. So for now, these are all set up fine. And then we're going to do engine source folder name as well. So Control F, paste that. Engine source folder name, again, we're talking now instead about core demos, we're talking about our engine source code that we've added. So we can go O3DE editor, as I've named it. You can, whatever your folder is called. And already in tasks, we've got one here. So we can click replace all. This tutorial here has .bat, but I'm going to correct that before you even see it. So you don't need to worry about seeing this in my tutorial. Settings does not have it. Launch, surprisingly does not have it. And CMake presets does not have it. Okay. But it does have third-party folder path. What does this one say? Path to third-party gems. I'm going to also change this so that it's not a trouble for you. Oh boy, every time you do a tutorial. And with that, for now, you should have everything. Here we go. Here's another one. Here you have path to your dev folder. So contrary to these ones that are relative, the Workspace folder or whatever. This in particular needs to actually have the path to the file in your entire project. So we have our core demos project up here. You need to put in the directory that takes you there. So for me, it was d:\thing off local dev, blah, 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 GS core demos, and then you can leave this here. I don't need to tell you too much about this just for now. And I'm just going to do a quick glance over to see how many other, but I mean, this is why I have it as a repository, so that I can always edit it, pass it forward, and then you can have it clearly corrected and ready for use. So next, moving on, we're going to step back out of this and actually go into our VS Code settings. Now we have these two files here. I'm going to, for now, close all here. I'm not going to save these. This isn't actually a valid project that I'm going to be doing. And so these now settings are for your actual VS Code entire system. You can finesse this a bit between your settings here in the workspace, but I've found that these ones make the most sense for your system. So I'm going to just grab these and pull them in. Oops. Just so that we have them as reference. But we'll start with settings.json here. Now, what I just did, dragging it in here, is just so that you can read what's here. But in fact, in order to actually edit this, you want to go down into this gear here, find this settings button, and it'll bring you to this nice configuration window. The cool thing about VS Code is that everything in here are just commands, but there's just a nice interface here for setting them. But because we have them already as text commands, we want to go here where the tabs are and go all the way to the other side with the settings open. And you should see open settings, and it says JSON. So now we've opened our VS Code's settings. And because this is shared between all your projects, as you'll see, I already have much of these settings in, and maybe some other ones. But all you need to do is basically highlight all this within the squigglies, copy it in, and then at the end of whatever you have here, I don't remember what the default is, you just put a comma, and then you paste. And as you see here, the bunch of green opens up because I'm duplicating commands, which it doesn't want you to do. But just for the sake of it, we can look these over real quick. So we're using a command that says use developer command prompt for VS 2022. This is just a text instruction saying to use this next thing that we have right here, called developer command prompt. That's just a custom name, but what it's actually saying is use CMD and then include this vcvars.64.bat. Now, this is a default directory for Visual Studio 2022, which is likely the one that you'll be using, but it's good to just double check. It's in your program files, what you've installed. Down into 2022 community, there's these ones that are kind of annoying to discern, and then there's vcvars.64.bat. You can always go into your program files or your Microsoft Visual Studio and just search for this directly, and then open it up in folder directory, blah, 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 blah. And now you know the directory. If it's unchanged, then awesome. Here we have enables signed git commits. This one's not an absolute necessity, but if you use VS Code's source control, always sign off is nice to have, because if you're contributing to the O3DE source code, you need to sign off every single commit that you do, or else it'll fail you. So just get ahead of the curve, have it there, it's fine. Now we have some settings, status bar visibility for CMake, which is one of our extensions that we added. Some other CMake configurations here, turning them all off because they don't use our settings here, which is annoying. If they did, we would be breezy, but CMake wants to do our thinking for us. So now we have to tell CMake to not think at all. And then this last one is auto select active folder. This is a very critical one because all of our commands, see Workspace folder specifically point to the editor folder instead of our project, do this for a very precise reason. And if you happen to be going, hey, I'm working on my gem right now, blah, 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 and then you try and run a command, with that auto select active folder, it's going to now try to run the CMake commands in your GSPlay gems instead of your core demos project. So no, not active folder. You're going to do the folder that we designate directly. So again, with just the double check that you have the VC vars, everything here is just prefab. You do not need to worry about it in great detail. And then your settings are now nicely configured, and that's nice and good to go. So you can just close it. I don't need to because I don't need to save because I have it already set up. And so this settings little template we have is done. And now we are on key bindings. So this is again just the template to copy paste from. You can go in here, open up the gear, and just behind settings is keyboard shortcuts. And again, there's some lovely interface to show you stuff. You can do all sorts of things. Insert at cursor, insert at, and you can see all these things. You can set them up, but you'll actually notice that underneath is a little command, and that's actually what will be happening. So exactly like the settings tab, with keyboard shortcuts selected, you can go all the way over here and open keyboard shortcuts JSON. Pew. And as you'll see, it's probably identical, almost. I did a test one somewhere. But all it is you can just copy paste these in, and they will reconfigure your VS Code to handle the way that we will be building and compiling and all that stuff, your projects for O3DE. The first one, F7, it replaces the default build command with our custom Ninja-build command. F5 means run, like launch our project. The former F5 was launch our project with debug every single time. That's not absolutely necessary. When you want to run debug, now we've changed it to Control F5, so just swaps these really. So now you can do a concerted debug when you want to do a concerted debug. And then this particular command here, Control-Shift-B, is now a quick button to run any of our custom tasks. Some of our custom tasks. So when we open up tasks here, we've set them up before, but I just didn't save. Our task is reconfigure build, which resets the build settings. Custom Ninja build, which builds our project using Ninja. Create new component, which will create us a new component. And generate Ninja compile commands. Some of these you may not understand yet because we haven't gotten into the scripts yet. But you'll have seen some of these overlaps, like in settings, there's this path to your dev folder, path to your project name, NCC compile commands. This task creates those compile commands for you. But we won't get too hard into that. Our key bindings are now set. We now have an easy workflow to do all of the kind of work we want with O3DE specifically. And now, the last thing we're going to do is set up some utility scripts. Now, these are built with .bats, which are a Windows-only like automated script system, VS Code bat files. So this only works for Windows, but you can always look it over to see what the behavior is, and perhaps using your particular operating system's automated scripting, which I assume exists in some form, to create the same kind of processes, because I found them to be infinitely helpful in just quickly developing and working on my stuff. So we'll start with the engine bats, our nice create component here. I already have it in my engine folder, but you will take it, and you'll drag it, and you will copy it into your O3DE editor. Now that you have it copied in, you can pull up the create component.bat, and I have it already pre-filled. I can show you here as a comparison. But I have all of these, again, corner squigglies for you to fill in the default settings for your create component. And then here it gives you a nice summary of what you've set, just to make sure that you aren't messing anything up. And then it runs the create component command. So what are these steps here? First, you're going to make a path from the very beginning of your computer, again, so D whatever, yada, 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 to your gem dev folder path. So not to any specific gem, to the folder that has all of your development gems in them. This is just an early little step to get you all the way to where you can edit, or you can create components for any single one of your gems, but still have a nice default folder instead of having to type C, whatever, development, whatever, gem devs, whatever, GS audio. So I fragmented that up. So then the second default now is the default gem folder that you want as just a, if you don't want to set anything, it will fall back on that. So in my case, I did GS core because that's the base gem of all of my other GS gems. Here is the actual component name. The default just really doesn't matter because your component name is always going to be different. This one says my component, but it's important to note that when you create a component, it adds component at the end of the name. So if you want your component to be called my component, you call the component name my, and you'll get my component, blah, blah, blah. Then there's default gem name. So my folders, as you can see, are lowercase GS core. But if you actually go into the code space and open something up, you'll notice that the namespace is using the display name or the gem name directly. So in this case, it's capitalized. So I had to, of course, end up making that section separate, but that's because there's component name and gem name in the actual create the template, and that's because the gem folder and the namespace become two different things. Lastly is the default template here. I just use default component, but again, because of all of these being customizable, if you have a different template that you want to use, you can type that in directly, or of course override the default. I actually don't know what any of the other templates do, so I just keep using default component. And this is the script here. So as a small preview, using our key bindings, Control-Shift-B, which pulls up our tasks, and we click Create New Component, it will then run this Create Component bat, and we can now see Control-Shift-B, Create New Component, continue without scanning. Oh, poof. Sorry, I'll do it here on my actual project. Control-Shift-B, Create New Component, continue without scanning. Here it goes. Hey, creating a new component. The current directory is the editor, so now we know that we're in the editor and these commands will work. The path goes to my GS play gems. That's fine, enter. The gem directory, yes, we're going to do GS core because I'm making a new GS core component. The component name will be my, and the gem name will now be, well, as it says, GS core capitalized. template name, and it gives you the summary. So now it's going to create the component inside GS Core code. So that's here, if we just go to the other project, that's GS Core code. So it'll come in just right at the top of your source code in your gem. The component is the gem is GS Core, the template is default component, and if I press any key to continue, it will now create that thing. If not, you can come up here to the trash can and kill the terminal. So that didn't make a component for us. That's how this works. Let's move on. I didn't want to get too in the weeds of all this, but let us configure the other components. So this was the only one that needed to be in the editor, because as we are seeing here, we're using the editor folder directory to be able to pull up the editor scripts. Now we can go out of here and go into the project bats. Now you can take these three and you can just drag them into your core demos, so your actual project this time, and they'll just be right at the root file, and we can set those up. So build project is the nice build project command. Again, you want it to point to the VC vars 64. It was the same thing we had in our other settings. And actually, just this week, I created this little script fragment here. And what it does is it actually checks to see if you have the editor already open. And if it does, it gives you a warning and says, hey, by continuing, we're going to force close the project. So obviously save before you click proceed. But the reason for this is that if you try to build while the editor is open, the build will fail with a really ambiguous error that you, of course, attribute to your own errors, but it's simply because it can't overwrite the editor files with the properly edited compile. So this saves a real headache. And in fact, I actually saved myself yesterday with that. So it turns out it works really well. And then it just calls the default build project command, and it requires this Visual Studio configuration to actually run without any problems. Next is our create Ninja build commands. Again, it starts with our VC vars, so if it's changed, then change that. And here, we're actually doing a very unique build process on purpose here. So we're setting the use of Ninja multi-config, which is just a configuration setting. But what we're doing is building into the folder n_cc, Ninja compile commands. And this is because Visual Studio Code doesn't have a means to do IntelliSense, like code recommendations, without getting a copy of what's going on in the editor source code and also in your gems source code. So here you have, it's pointing to your third party. So again, just like the other time, you can take the third party folder path, rename and replace it with your third party path. It's the same as all of them, but the reason why that this is a specific command and special, aside from the folder that it's going to output to, is that it doesn't use Unity build, Unity being a thing that makes packages as like clusters of source code, but it hides the source code in the packages. So we want the full source code to be visible, and then we want to export compile commands. And the only way we can do that is if we can read the source code and make commands out of the source code. So this is something that you'll do at the very beginning of your project, and then if there's really fundamental changes to the script, to the source code, or you've made a ton of gems and now you want them to properly read what's there, just like the rest, you can just go here, Control-Shift-B, generate Ninja compile commands, and it will do that for you. And now the last one is reconfigure build.bat. And so again, it has to set the environment, and then all it's doing is saying for this project, use Ninja multi-config. I don't know what the S means. And then the default build target is build for Windows. I don't recall if I mentioned in this copy of this tutorial, but like in the editor source code, what this command is doing is the same as if you go into your project and open CMake GUI and go configure generate, except that configure generate will likely use the default, it'll tell you current generator actually. So in this case, because I've already set it to use Ninja multi-config, it will generate Ninja multi-config just like this. So whenever you start a project, or you've had to go literally into your project build folder and just delete your entire build, this happens when there's a fundamental change in the source code that breaks the way that this cache works. Like, because when you compile again, it doesn't rebuild everything. It only rebuilds what changes. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to just do a clear build. If someone says do a clear build, you go into your builds, you select your windows, and you just destroy the entire build. So that will force a 1 hour to 2 hour rebuild, but it won't work the first time you do it. And so you just need to call, not command line, custom reconfigure build. And so all it'll do is it'll set the configuration correctly, and then from there on out, you can just call build, build project. So with all that, we've done our pre-configuration of VS Code from all these files. I hope that this gave you some clarity, gave you some things, but we have one final thing to do. So because we, in the extensions, installed CMake tools, you'll notice these two tabs open up. I have my extensions and my Explorer here on the side, but you'll likely have your Explorer over here too. So this just becomes another tab along with your other tabs. And when you click on it, you'll see run and debug here and all these things empty. And in the second one, which is where we'll start, you'll see project status, project outline, pinned commands, etc. And as you can see here, there's no kit selected, select kit, all tests. Like, this will just be some random assortment of settings, and our folder here. And so this is the whole, if you click on gems or on the source code with the auto folder select, it will change this away from your project. You do not want that. But I will show you how it looks in my actual project. So in configure, you'll click on this select a kit. And here, because none of my settings got saved, it's going to be not a very beneficial thing. But here, you'll see we have a ton of build types that were all the pre-built styles. But then we have our Ninja profile editor, which is one of the settings we set up. Was it here in launch? No, it was in our CMake presets. Ninja profile editor for our configure, and Ninja profile editor lowercase for our build. And likely if you do one, the other one will set. So here we have thing and thing. Then you see here in build, there should be a subsection. Again, my settings aren't correct in this demo. And then you can click here again on set build target. And this is the here. And so you'll see launcher, MSVC, attach, all those things. And we have editor defined specifically. I'm pretty sure because of something. But yes, you'll do editor. Test will just be default, package will just default, workflow is just default. We don't have those anything. And then here on debug and launch, you'll see here they're not. And again, similar to the configure and the build, if you go here, sorry, it's going to configure for me. Don't worry about this. I'll talk about it in a second here. It's going to do this, and then it's going to fail. And the reason why it fails is because CMake refuses to use our settings that say use our Visual Studio environment. So it sidesteps our desire to have that. And so therefore, after this configures, it's going to say, oops, everything messed up. And it's like, well, yeah, because you purposefully are not doing what I want you to do. So this is literally the single irritant of using VS Code with Windows and Ninja, is that CMake won't change their extension to use the default engine setting, or sorry, the default VS Code settings, because everything else will. Integrated terminal is what we've set up, but no, it won't do that for us. So yeah, this is a pain. You only have to do this once when you've opened VS Code, and it will never bother you again. If I find a good alternative or workaround to this, I will of course update the resources repository, but so far I haven't been able to stop this one motion from happening. Sorry, I have to stall here while it's doing it. It's about to tell me. Yeah, so it's got the build configuration. Oh good, so it hasn't failed because it didn't get there yet. Here, these are all of these here, the launcher, editor, attach, Python, all that stuff. So you can scroll down and there's editor right here, and that's this one here. If you look, there's, where's launcher? There's a bunch, there's so many. Wow, there's so many. I don't see launcher, but you can do editor and bang, it pops to the top and you can select that. I'm not going to do that because I have these all set up. And I think the reason why this says editor and doesn't have an alternate option is because the debug and the launch are set to editor. So hopefully all of that has worked. It may involve one of these interruption breaks here to configure. You can verify some of this stuff because down here on the bar that we exposed, there should be a Ninja profile editor here, and then build, and then Ninja profile editor build, the editor being this, all these defaults that you don't have, and then this. So then you can go to this run and debug, and it's a thing that you can accidentally mistake here. This will be set to launcher, but instead you want it to be set to editor as well. So that when you run and debug, you're debugging the same thing that you're building day in and day out. And so, in final conclusion, I will show you a tiny bit of how this works. So I hope that I don't have any broken code here, but you'll click F7, and you'll see setting up Visual Studio environment. It will happen. You'll get building GS play project. In my case, I renamed the command title. It'll say building project for you. Because it's Ninja, you'll get this nice progress bar as it's cycling through things. Usually, I like to say that if you're past about 2 or 3, your code probably works for the most part, except for some final issues. It's 22 here because I have already pre-built the entire rest of the engine or editor for this project. So it was only small changes that I made. And then it'll say press any key to continue because right now it succeeded. But if you made a big erroneous error, it will tell you the error. So then now you've succeeded in building. You can double check by clicking F7 again, and it'll say no work to do. And then you click F5, which is not run and debug, it is run. And because I did that pre-compile, that thing that popped up when I was trying to set the settings, it opens up Visual Studio right away and runs the launch the editor command. But for whatever reason, it doesn't let you do it the first time, so it'll run a thing, fail, and then you just exit out of that failure, and then you just run the same thing and it works. Here we have the editor opening up for my project. Uh-oh, secret inside stuff. And then look, if you click, I'm going to say, well, it doesn't even matter. If you click F7 because you want to build, uh-oh, editor is currently running. This is going to cause you issues. So press a key to continue, and I click it, and editor goes away, and then it starts to build, and there's no work to build. And so then, that's it. You do edit, save, build. It'll do a small thing. So yeah, 14 is about the size that I usually get when I'm doing a gem that then goes into the project. It'll bake for a little while. And definitely, like about now, in the wait, it'll probably tell you have an error, but because I don't have it, it's going all the way through the rest of the startup. There we go, breaks through, just is building all the stuff it's done. Press any key and start again the editor. So then, this is it, the workflow I always do. I wake up in the morning, I can go here and open up my workspace right out of the bat. It'll open the last workspace you had before you closed. You have all of your default, all of the tabs that you have for your stuff open. This can be gone in a way. So now I have Explorer, my terminal if I need it. You can exit out of that. Got all your code. Like I was showing in the build your project, you can go to any of these projects or any subfolder and go find in folder. It'll pull up your search tab. You got O3DE editor. I want to look for image bus from the Shine UI editor. And now you can parse through all sorts of code. Pick up whatever include directories you need. Make changes, make edits, come back, click F7. Oops, editor was running. Close it up, build, and run editor. So the last thing I wanted to show is run and debug. So you can come here and you can click this play button, or as you can see in the little example, it says Control F5. So I can click Control F5 and something will come up here. I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to stop the run and debug. Sorry, I did a custom thing here. But here, let's see if this does it more. Here, debug break. So when working with O3DE, when you're using reflection, so you want to expose your stuff. Let me pull up an actual in core, my code, my source code, my managers. So here in my managers, I want to expose fields, and I want to expose the data, but sometimes you need to pass in stuff from your inheriting class. So let me see if cinematics matter. I'm just going to mock it for you. So we have the whole in debug from GS Manager component. Well, let's say we need something from just AZ component. This can be valid. This isn't valid because I'm just doing a mock, but this can be valid because you're extending from Game Manager, whatever, and you need it to show up here in the editor. But it will throw an error when you do debug. And it's not invalid. I do it all the time, which is why it comes up. So in audio editor here, we'll see here, I'll go to audio, close editor, gems, go into audio, code, source, might be audio manager. Yes, see, look, GS Manager component, so Audio Manager is a manager, and I want to expose debug messaging level because, of course, if you want to change the debug messaging of the Audio Manager, if you don't add the manager component value, you can't edit it. But then it causes this issue. So what I did is here at debug break, that's going to happen over and over. Like literally I can just click continue and it goes to the next one and then the next one and the next one. And I thought that this was a huge issue that was going to lock me out of debug. But again, this week I found out if you click here to add breakpoint, okay, I'm just going to redo it. So you click add, click to add breakpoint. Oh, right click, sorry. Add log point. And it just logs a message and it says, not necessary. I don't know. I just put a mock thing in here. It now goes down here onto this breakpoints. And because it's just a log instead of a stop, you'll see I have a million other ones, but now I can just click continue and it's skipping all of them. And finally, it comes to a breakpoint that I put so that I could diagnose rendering things. And this is what happens right off the bat now. So when I stop and I click Control F5, it skips all of those breakpoints that are just warnings about what's going on, and it gets to my actual breakpoints. So this is the entire workflow from starting your project, setting up your workspace, getting the nice utility commands in, setting up your VS Code settings, configuring your project, and then editing, building, and running your code. And of course, the nice thing about this now is that if you can actually diagnose in the debug layer of formatting instead of just doing logs in the command line console log stuff. So this wasn't necessarily that much shorter than the other one, but hopefully it just means that you can get your stuff working. The previous tutorial had some mistakes, which is why I'm doing this now. So thanks for watching along. If you need any clarification on any of this stuff, feel free to ask or go to the O3DE Discord and ask in general. And happy coding. I hope this breaks you into some C++ work. And of course, you can follow my other actual C++ based coding stuff tutorials from here on out, because this is my general workspace that I do all day, every day when I'm programming my tools. So thanks for coming along. Thanks for your patience as I do these intensives, and see you next time. Bye.